Hi class. I chose to do my concept this week on planning analytical reports. Um, it's the purpose of an analytical report is to analyze and to understand, to explain a problem or an opportunity and figure out how to fix the company and how the company should respond. Um, my thoughts on that is that basically it just means that if something's going on and we need to figure out what it is, this is the type of report that we use to make sure that happens. What kind of reports do we use? Our first one is a report to assess opportunities. We use analytical reports to assess risk and require decisions and action. So this would be in situations where maybe we are trying to determine if we're going to change vendors or use something new. Um, this is the report that we start first to see how it would affect us and what we would use to assess to make sure that that would be beneficial to us in the company or anything like that. The second type is the result reports to solve problems. That would be more preparing troubleshooting reports to determine issues. So that would be more if there is something going on in the company and we're trying to figure out exactly where it is and why it's happening. We would use that report to try to nail it down and figure out the best way to approach the problem and how to solve it. This would be in a situation that maybe we're finding that the budget is being used greatly in one area that we weren't quite expecting the budget to be used in that area. So maybe we need to figure out the best way to approach that so that it won't affect us in the long run. The third type is the report to support decisions. So this kind of maybe coincides a little bit with that first one, that report to assess opportunities, because after we assess an opportunity and we do make the decision, we may need to create another report to explain, maybe even justify any decisions that we made or changes that we incurred. So if we do change vendors, if we do change something, then maybe it's the best way to show why we made the decision that we made. Questions that need to be answered. What needs to be determined? What exactly is this report we're trying to figure out? Are we trying to figure out why we're losing money? Are we trying to figure out the best way to um, restructure an organization? What are we trying to determine? Why is this issue important? Is it a financial issue? Is it an employee-based issue? Is it an issue just based on other aspects? Why is this important for us in our company? And who's involved in the situation? Is it an employee base? Is it managerial place? Is it a vendor place? Who's involved in the situation that makes it an analytical situation that we need to resolve? And where is the trouble located? Where is the money coming from? Where is the issues with the employee-led things? Where is the issues with the vendors? Where is this trouble located? How can we find it? And how did the situation originate? That kind of coincides with where's the trouble located, because you have to find um, not only where it's located, but how did the situation start in the first place? And when did it start? So where and when did this situation start? Did it start in the beginning and we just never noticed it? Has it always been a problem? Has this just occurred because we made a change somewhere and we didn't realize it? When did it start? So there's a couple kinds of approaches that we can do, and one of them is called focusing on conclusions. This approach works best for audiences who you trust in your judgment. These reports will start with the conclusion. So, for example, we might start off the report saying that throughout this situation that we found that adding 10% to the employee scheme can help with the issues that we found arising with productivity. So maybe managers who trust you, or people that you report to that trust your judgment and you have proven in the past that you know what you're talking about, might accept that approach a lot better than people who don't quite know or understand your approach. So those reports will always start with the conclusion, and then the main ideas will kind of basically back them up. Um, The next type is focusing on recommendations, and that's it's a 5-step process. It's one, establish the need for action in the introduction by briefly describing the problem or opportunity. So in my example, you could say that we are finding that productivity is low and we're needing to find a way to expand in enhance our productivity. Introduce the benefits that can be achieved if the recommendations is adopted along with any potential risks. So, of course, adding employees means adding more money because we have to pay for these employees. So that could be a problem. However, with the productivity that will be increased, that could also save us some money in the long run. That could be an example. A list of steps required to achieve the benefit using action verbs or emphasis. So we could say something like, by adding 2 employees, employee A would be providing this skill, and employee B would be providing X skill, and providing these skills into the department will help with future beneficial aspects. And then explain each step more fully, giving details on procedures, costs, and benefits if necessary. Explain how risk can be minimized. So if we're talking about adding 2 more employees, we can say that by adding these employees, um, they can help with finding issues in the long run that can be beneficial to the company. And then, of course, just summarize everything that you've already recommended. And then focusing on logical arguments. So there was 2 approaches that the book mentioned. One was the 2+2 approach. 2+2=4 approach. It means everything adds up. So like our example with the employees, if we add these 2 employees, it will work out because yes, we'll be paying them more, but on the long run, the the benefits outweigh the negative. Use main ideas to help draw your conclusion. So you can use maybe some stats that you've collected, or use another person's business strategy to show how it's worked for their company. The yardstick approach was another approach that was discussed in the book. However, it seemed to be more there was some negativity about the yardstick approach, and you have to be careful how you address it. Start by addressing the issue or opportunity, then discussing the alternatives. It can become a little bit sidetracked or one-sided. So just I would recommend, of course, the 2+2=4 approach. The yardstick approach seemed to have some issues along the line of it. So that was my presentation for today. I hope that you guys understood, and just to give you guys an example of something that I have went through in the past with analytical reports, I've had to do a report based on in my current job how we were using um, how we were kind of flooded with files that we hadn't been flooded with before, and we couldn't figure out how to approach it. So I did a report on how we could um, minimize that risk by making the people that are trained on certain projects get off those projects for a while because they weren't really priority, and let us all focus on that. And then within a month, we were able to get all of that done. So I used the conclusion report, I guess you would say, because I told them why and then explained the main ideas of how it would work. So I just wanted to give you guys a thank you once again, and have a good night.